The Academy's 1,000-year-old ceremonial flag is burning in Classroom 7, and the human instructor is teaching quadratic equations like it's a normal Tuesday. Commander Zilax's communication tablet clattered against his desk as Ambassador Kael'thas's voice screeched through the emergency channel. The Velkari diplomat's mandibles were clicking so rapidly, the translator struggled to keep pace. Immediate termination. Diplomatic incident protocols. The human has committed an act of... Slow down. Zilax's secondary arms gripped the tablet while his primary hands brought up the security feed. What human? What flag? According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Sarah Jackson, the combat theory instructor, she set fire to the Coalition Unity flag in front of 47 students. Kael'thas's head crest flared bright red. My son was in that classroom. He watched this barbarian burn the symbol of everything we've built. The security feed loaded. Zilax's 3 eyes widened simultaneously. There, in the advanced tactics classroom, the sacred ceremonial flag, woven with threads from every coalition species' homeworld, blessed by the Council of Elders, displayed at every military academy for 2 centuries, was indeed burning. Smoke curled toward the ventilation system while shocked alien cadets sat frozen in their seats. And Sarah Jackson, human instructor of combat theory, was writing mathematical equations on the display board like absolutely nothing was happening. Problem 3, her voice came through clearly, that distinctive human accent casual and conversational. If Fleet Formation Delta maintains current velocity while engaging hostiles at Mark 773, what's the optimal dispersion pattern to minimize casualties while, are we done with the dramatic gasping? Good, because this problem set isn't going to solve itself. She's insane, Kael'thas hissed. I'm invoking Article 72 of the Military Exchange Protocol. Remove her immediately, or Earth's military partnership with the Coalition ends today. Zilax studied the feed more carefully. The human female was medium height by Earth standards, wearing the standard instructor's uniform, brown hair pulled back in what humans called a ponytail. Nothing about her suggested instability. Her movements were precise, confident, professional, which made what she'd done absolutely terrifying. I'm on my way, Zilax said, already moving toward the door. Do nothing until I arrive. That's an order, Ambassador. An order? She burned our... Do nothing. The walk to Classroom 7 took 4 minutes. Zilax used that time to review Sarah Jackson's file on his wrist display. Human, female, age 32 standard years, formerly a captain in Earth's military until a dishonorable discharge 3 years ago. Details classified, hired by the Academy 8 months ago. Teaching record, exemplary. Student performance, unprecedented improvement. 0 disciplinary incidents until today. The classroom door was already surrounded by security personnel and outraged faculty members. Zilax pushed through them, his rank clearing the path. Inside, the flag had burned down to ashes in a metal waste container. The acrid smell of smoke lingered. 47 alien cadets sat rigid in their seats, eyes wide, some with visible tremors. Every species represented, Velkari, Thexian, Kornax, even 2 of the usually unflappable Cathar. Sarah Jackson stood at the front, marker in hand, completely calm. Commander, she acknowledged him with a nod. Good timing. We're just getting to the interesting part. Kael'thas stormed in behind Zilax, flanked by 2 more ambassadors. Arrest her. She has committed an act of war-level disrespect against the entire coalition. Sarah raised an eyebrow. War-level disrespect? That's a new one. Is that before or after slightly miffed on your threat assessment scale? You burned the Unity flag. I burned a flag, yes. Sarah set down her marker. Specifically, I burned a piece of cloth that was requisitioned through proper channels as teaching material. Form 447B, approved by 3 department heads. I have the documentation if you'd like to review it. Teaching material? Ambassador Talana of the Cathar stepped forward, her crystalline features rigid with fury. That flag represents 200 years of alliance, 47 species united in common cause. You destroyed a sacred symbol, Sarah interrupted. I destroyed a symbol. And yeah, that was kind of the point. She turned back to the board. Cadet Jotaro, would you like to answer problem 3? Or should we discuss why your father lost 40,000 troops at the Battle of Krixnar first? Absolute silence. Kael'thas's mandibles froze mid-click. What did you say? Your son is in my advanced tactics class, Ambassador. Brilliant kid, actually, sharp analytical mind, so I've been using your military career as a case study. Sarah pulled up a holographic display. The Battle of Krixnar. You commanded the 7th Fleet. Enemy forces were in full retreat. You had them. Complete victory was 15 minutes away. The display showed battle footage, ships in formation, weapons firing, a clear tactical advantage. Then, intelligence reported enemy forces were retreating past the Monument of Fallen Heroes on Krixnar's third moon. Sacred ground, right? Where your people's greatest warriors are commemorated. Sarah's voice remained conversational, almost gentle. You received orders to maintain pursuit. Instead, you held position, refused to let coalition ships fire toward the monument, said it would be dishonorable to desecrate sacred ground during combat. She zoomed in on the tactical map. The enemy used those 15 minutes to regroup, call reinforcements and counterattack. 40,000 coalition troops died in the next 6 hours. Your fleet was decimated. The war extended 18 more months. Kael'thas's crest had gone completely pale. You have no right to... I have every right. I'm teaching combat theory, and you're a perfect example of how to get people killed. Sarah faced the class. Your ambassador chose symbols over soldiers. He valued a monument more than lives, and 40,000 beings died because pride mattered more than pragmatism. She walked to the ashes of the burned flag. So I burned this. Not because I hate the coalition or disrespect what it represents. I burned it because every single one of you needs to understand something right now before you graduate and take command positions where real people will depend on you. Sarah picked up a handful of ashes, letting them fall through her fingers. This is cloth. Expensive cloth, historically significant cloth, but cloth. When you're in combat and someone tells you that you can't make the tactically correct decision because of a symbol, because of honor, because of tradition, you need to remember it's just cloth, just stone, just words. She looked directly at Kael'thas, just pride, and none of it is worth a single life. You, the ambassador's voice cracked, you dare use my son to teach him not to make your mistakes? Yeah, I do, Sarah's tone sharpened. Jotaro, what did your father tell you about Krixnar? The young Velkari cadet stood slowly, his mandibles trembling. That sometimes sacrifice is necessary to maintain honor. And what do you think now? Jotaro looked at his father, then back at Sarah. I think 40,000 people didn't need to sacrifice anything if we just fired on an empty monument. Kael'thas made a sound like something breaking. Zilak stepped forward. Instructor Jackson, you understand the severity of what you've done. Completely. You've violated cultural protocols for every species in the coalition. You've insulted our most sacred military traditions. You've caused a diplomatic crisis that could save thousands of lives if anyone actually listens to what I'm teaching instead of focusing on hurt feelings. Sarah crossed her arms. Commander, may I show you something? She pulled up another display before he could answer. Combat simulation results scrolled across the screen. These are my students' performance records from the past 3 weeks. Survival rate in worst-case scenarios, up 340%. Tactical efficiency, up 400%. Decision-making speed under pressure, up 200%. More data appeared. Compare that to students in traditional combat theory courses. They score higher on honor-based assessments. They follow protocol perfectly, and they die in simulations at 5 times the rate my students do. Because you teach them to abandon honor, Talana said, to forsake everything that makes us worthy of. I teach them to stay alive. Sarah's voice cut like a blade. I teach them that the best way to honor fallen warriors is to not create more fallen warriors unnecessarily. I teach them that symbols and traditions are beautiful, meaningful things that should never, ever cost lives to maintain. She pulled up one more file. This is from Earth's military history, World War I, 1916, the Battle of the Somme. British forces were ordered to advance across open ground toward fortified positions. Officers knew it was suicide. Soldiers knew it was suicide. But orders were orders. Honor demanded they fight. Tradition said they couldn't retreat. The casualty numbers appeared. Kael'thas's crest trembled. 60,000 casualties in one day, because pride and tradition mattered more than tactical reality. Sarah's eyes swept the room. We tried the whole die for the flag, die for honor, die for glory thing on Earth. Stopped working around that time. We learned, painfully, with millions of dead teaching us, that pragmatism keeps soldiers alive, that smart retreat beats glorious death, that symbols are worthless if everyone who valued them is corpses. So you burn our flag to teach this lesson? Zilax said quietly. I burn the flag to force exactly this conversation. Sarah gestured at the assembled aliens. Look at all of you, outraged, furious, ready to have me executed for disrespecting a piece of cloth. That's the point. You care more about the symbol than about the 47 students in this room who need to learn how not to die stupidly in combat. She walked to the front row. Cadet Sinara, what was your first reaction when I lit the flag? The Thexian student's scales rippled. Horror, Instructor. I thought you'd gone mad. And now? I think I understand. The flag was a lesson. The flag was a weapon. Sarah's voice softened. I used your cultural programming against you to make you feel something strongly enough that you'll remember this moment forever. Every time you're in a command position and someone tells you can't make the smart tactical choice because of honor or tradition, you'll remember the day your crazy human instructor burned the unity flag. And you'll remember why. Kael'thas stepped forward, his posture rigid with barely controlled rage. You think yourself clever, human. You think one demonstration justifies cultural violation, but you're wrong, because what you've taught these students is that nothing is sacred, that all our traditions, all our values, all the things that unite us as a coalition can be discarded whenever pragmatism demands it. No, Sarah said. I've taught them that everything is sacred except when weighed against lives. Your traditions are beautiful, your cultures are valuable, your symbols matter, but soldiers matter more. Their lives, their futures, their families, they matter more than cloth and stone and words. You cannot possibly understand what you've destroyed today. I understand perfectly. Sarah's expression was calm but unyielding. I destroyed your ability to send students into combat. Thinking glory matters more than coming home alive. I destroyed the comfortable lie that honorable death is somehow better than tactical retreat. I destroyed the excuse officers use to make bad decisions and blame it on tradition. She met Kael'thas's eyes. I didn't burn your flag, Ambassador. I burned the excuse you used to get people killed. And yeah, I'd do it again. The room fell silent. Zilax's communication tablet chirped. He glanced at it, then looked up sharply. Supreme Commander Vex Thul is here. The classroom door opened. Every alien immediately stood at attention, spines straight, appendages rigid. Supreme Commander Vex Thul of the Quanix entered, his head tentacles writhing slowly, the Quanix equivalent of deep thought. He was massive even for his species, with scarred carapace that spoke of decades of combat. Behind him came a half-dozen military historians and cultural advisors. At ease, Vex Thul said, his translator rendering his chemical speech into standard coalition language. I've reviewed the incident, the flag burning, The lesson content, the diplomatic complaints. His massive eyes fixed on Sarah. Instructor Jackson, do you have anything to say in your defense? No, sir. No. I'm not defending my actions. I'm standing by them. Everything I did was legal, documented, and necessary. Sarah remained perfectly still. If that costs me my position, fine. But those students needed to learn that lesson, and I'm not apologizing for teaching it effectively. Vexthul's tentacles writhed faster. You understand that 47 species are calling for your immediate termination? That Ambassador Kael'thas has threatened to withdraw the Velkari military from coalition operations if you remain employed? That 3 governments are demanding formal apologies? Yes, sir. And you still believe you were correct to burn a sacred ceremonial flag in front of students? I believe I was correct to teach students that symbols don't protect them in combat. Tactics do. Smart decisions do. The willingness to prioritize survival over glory does. Sarah's jaw set. Sir, with respect, how many coalition soldiers have died in the past decade because commanders made honor-based decisions instead of tactically sound ones? Vexthul's tentacles went completely still. Very dangerous for Aquanics. Military historian Xyler, he said quietly, answer the instructor's question. A thin, nervous-looking Thexian stepped forward, datapad trembling in his manipulators. That is, the research committee has been analyzing combat losses and, Supreme Commander, over the past 10 standard years, approximately 73% of coalition military casualties occurred during operations where honor-based protocols overrode tactical recommendations. The silence was crushing. 73%, Vexthul repeated. Continue. In battles where commanders prioritized strategic withdrawal over defending symbolic positions, casualty rates dropped by 42%. In operations where cultural combat restrictions were suspended by necessity, mission success rates increased by 67%, while losses decreased by 59%. In simulations where... Enough, Vexthul turned back to Sarah. You knew these statistics? I compiled them myself from publicly available coalition military records. It's all there in pattern analysis if you look for it. You're not warriors, Commander. You're flag wavers who happen to carry weapons. Someone gasped. Kael'thas looked ready to attack. Vexthul's tentacles rippled in what might have been amusement. Explain. Every species in the coalition evolved with some version of honor-based social structures. Prestige, glory, status, they were survival mechanisms when you were competing within your own species. But you took those instincts into space and into warfare against enemies who don't share your values. Sarah pulled up a galactic map. The Dreshkan War, the Hive conflicts, the Velkari-Thexian border war. You lost all of them initially because you fought like you were trying to prove something instead of fighting to win. She zoomed in on specific battles. You only started winning when humans joined the coalition and introduced tactical pragmatism. Retreat when outmatched. Use terrain regardless of cultural significance. Target enemy command structures even if it's dishonorable. We didn't fight better because we're superior. We fought better because we learned centuries ago that pride gets people killed. You were discharged from Earth's military, Vexthul said, dishonorably. Why? Sarah's expression tightened. I refused a direct order during combat operations. What order? We were defending a forward base. Enemy forces had us surrounded. Command ordered us to hold position until reinforcements arrived in 6 hours. Textbook last stand, very glorious. Everyone would have gotten medals posthumously. Her voice went flat. I calculated we'd all be dead in 90 minutes, so I ordered my unit to abandon the base and retreat to secondary positions. You disobeyed orders to save your soldiers. I disobeyed orders because they were stupid. The base had no strategic value. Command wanted to hold it because admitting retreat would look bad for morale. So I made the call. Lose the base. Keep the soldiers. Sarah's hands clenched. Earth's military discharged me for cowardice and insubordination, called it disgraceful, Destroyed my career. How many soldiers were in your unit? 40. And casualties from the retreat? 0. Vexthul's tentacles writhed rapidly now, intense interest. What happened to the base? Enemy overran it 3 hours later. Reinforcements arrived and retook it the next day. Empty base, no casualties, tactical situation unchanged, except if I'd followed orders, 40 people would have died defending dirt. And Earth's military punished you for this. Earth's military still has some honor culture baggage. We're working on it. Sarah's expression hardened. But at least we're trying. You all have built an entire military doctrine around pride, your training, your tactics, your strategic planning. It's all infected with this idea that how you win matters as much as whether you win. And it's killing you. She pulled up more data. Ambassador Keltas lost 40,000 at Krixnar because of pride. How many other officers have made similar decisions? How many battles has the coalition lost or drawn out because someone couldn't make the pragmatic choice? How many families are missing members because a commander couldn't retreat from symbolic ground? The advisors and historians shifted uncomfortably. Several were reviewing data pads with increasingly disturbed expressions. Instructor Jackson. Vexthul moved closer, his massive form towering over her. You burned our flag. You humiliated Ambassador Kael'thas in front of his own son. You violated every cultural protocol we have. You've caused a diplomatic crisis that may fracture the coalition. And your defense is that you did it to teach a lesson about pragmatism. Yes, sir. Do you believe the lesson was worth the cost? Sarah didn't hesitate. Ask me in 10 years when these students are commanding fleets, when they're making decisions that cost lives. When they're faced with choosing between looking good and doing good. Ask me then if teaching them to burn flags instead of soldiers was worth some diplomatic discomfort. Vexthul's tentacles went still again. Then, slowly, he turned to face the assembled aliens. I have reviewed Instructor Jackson's curriculum. I have studied her teaching methods. I have analyzed her students' performance metrics. His voice carried absolute authority. Everything she teaches violates our traditions. Everything she does contradicts our cultural values. Everything she represents is contrary to how we've trained military officers for centuries. He paused. And she is absolutely correct. Stunned silence. Sir, Kael'thas stammered, we have been teaching our officers to die gloriously instead of fight intelligently. We have been prioritizing honor over effectiveness. We have been sending commanders into combat with mindsets that get their soldiers killed unnecessarily. Vexthul's tentacles swept toward the advisors. The statistics confirm it. The battle analyses prove it. Our own military history demonstrates it repeatedly. But our traditions, Talana began, our traditions are beautiful. They define us. They matter. Vexthul's eyes fixed on each ambassador in turn. But Instructor Jackson is right. They matter less than the lives of our soldiers. They matter less than bringing our people home alive. They matter less than winning wars with minimum casualties instead of maximum glory. He turned back to Sarah. You will not be terminated. You will be promoted. Effective immediately, you are Chief Tactical Instructor for the Coalition Military Academy. Your curriculum will be implemented across all training facilities. You will personally oversee the restructuring of our combat doctrine to incorporate pragmatic survival tactics. Supreme Commander, you cannot possibly, Kael'thas started. I can, and I am. Vexthul's tone allowed no argument. Ambassador, your son is alive today because he's learning from Instructor Jackson instead of from you. Every simulation, every tactical assessment, every combat scenario, he survives because she teaches pragmatism while our traditional instructors teach glory. Would you prefer him to learn to die honorably or to live effectively? Kael'thas opened his mouth, closed it. His crest shifted through several colors before settling on pale resignation. Cultural Liaison Dirax, Vexthul continued, you will work with Instructor Jackson to develop protocols for teaching tactical pragmatism while respecting cultural traditions where possible. Military historian Xylar, you will compile a comprehensive analysis of honor-based tactical failures throughout coalition history. This will become required reading for all officer candidates. He faced the students. You, 47, witnessed something today that violated everything you were raised to believe sacred. The unity flag burned. Your traditions were questioned. Your cultures were challenged. And you learned something more valuable than any ceremonial symbol can teach, that your lives matter more than pride. Remember this. Apply it. Survive it. The students sat motionless, processing. Vexathul looked at Sarah one more time. You're dangerous, Instructor Jackson. You attack the foundations of how we understand ourselves. You destroy comfortable beliefs. You force us to confront failures we'd rather ignore. Yes, sir. We need more instructors like you. The Supreme Commander moved toward the door. Next week, you will present your full tactical doctrine proposal to the Coalition Military Council. Prepare to defend it against every military tradition we hold. I expect you to burn more flags, metaphorically this time, perhaps. Or literally, if it makes the point better, Sarah said. Vexthul's tentacles rippled. Definitely amusement. Or literally, dismissed. The room emptied slowly. Ambassadors departed in shocked silence. Advisors huddled together, arguing in hushed tones. Students filed out, minds visibly reeling from what they'd witnessed. Kailtas paused at the door, his son beside him. He looked at Sarah for a long moment, mandibles working silently. Finally, he spoke. You made me watch my worst failure used as a cautionary tale in front of my child. Yes. You humiliated me. You destroyed my pride. Yes. My son respects you more than he respects me now. Sarah met his eyes. Then maybe you should learn from him. Pride you can rebuild. Dead soldiers you can't. Kailtas left without another word. Jotaro lingered, then approached Sarah's desk. Instructor? Yeah? Thank you for showing me my father wasn't infallible, for teaching me to think instead of just follow. The young Velkari's voice was quiet. I won't make his mistakes. I know you won't, kid. You're too smart for that. Sarah smiled. Now get out of here. And for the record, your father's not a bad person. He's just a product of a system that valued the wrong things. He can learn too if he wants to. Jotaro nodded and departed. Xilax remained, studying the ashes of the burned flag. That was the most aggressive teaching method I've ever witnessed. Sometimes you have to break something to make people pay attention. Sarah began erasing the board. They'll remember this day for the rest of their lives. Every time they're tempted to make a pride-based decision, they'll see that burning flag and remember there's another choice. You could have been executed. Yeah, but I wasn't, and now I get to corrupt an entire generation of coalition officers with radical ideas like try not to die unnecessarily. She grinned. I'd call that a win. Xilax's three eyes studied her. Humans are terrifying. We're pragmatic. There's a difference. You waged psychological warfare on our entire military culture using one flag and 47 students. I taught a class. Not my fault your culture's so fragile that burning cloth causes existential crises. Sarah pulled out a container of food from her desk, something she called a sandwich. Want half? I'm pretty sure explaining how human military philosophy works is going to take a while, and I'm starving. You're eating, after nearly causing a coalition fracture. Commander, I spent 3 hours this morning explaining tactical retreat to a class of aliens who think running away is worse than death. I earned lunch. She took a bite, spoke around it. Besides, the crisis is over. Vexthul gets it. The smart ones will follow. The proud ones will complain but eventually adapt. That's how change works. You sound very confident. I am, because 10 years from now, when my students are commanding fleets, Coalition casualty rates are going to drop by half, and everyone will pretend they always knew pragmatism was better than glory. She offered him the sandwich again. Sure you don't want some? It's turkey, or turkey equivalent, whatever you guys call the bird-like thing from Thexurf. Zilax actually laughed, a rasping sound that his species rarely made. You're insane. I'm practical. There's still a difference. Sarah finished her sandwich and pulled up a new display. Now, if you're going to stick around, make yourself useful. I need to design a curriculum that teaches tactical flexibility without insulting 17 different species' religious beliefs. Think we can manage that? After watching you burn the unity flag and get promoted for it, I believe you can manage anything. Good attitude. You're learning already. She pulled out her notes. Okay, so first lesson, why retreating isn't cowardice. We'll need historical examples from at least 5 coalition species, human military precedents, and probably some visual aids. Maybe I'll burn something else for emphasis. What do you guys consider sacred besides flags? Please tell me you're joking. Sarah looked up, eyes sparkling with mischief. Commander, I'm an instructor. Sometimes you've got to burn something to make them pay attention. Now, are you going to help me revolutionize coalition military doctrine, or do I need to find another flag to light on fire? Zilax looked at the ashes in the waste container, at the human instructor grinning up at him with absolute confidence, at the equations still on the board, teaching pragmatism over pride. I'll help, he said, but please, no more actual fires. We'll see, Sarah said, already typing. We'll see. Outside the classroom, the academy continued its daily operations. Cadets attended classes, instructors lectured, simulations ran, everything looked normal, but something fundamental had shifted. In one classroom, with one burned flag, a human instructor had attacked the foundations of coalition military culture. And won. The flag was ashes, but the lesson would burn for generations.